So welcome again to GradTrack. So I'm gonna, this is our smiley group of mentors right here. So we had a mentor training a couple weeks ago. And we like to be serious, but we also like to have a little fun. There's going to be a good balance here with GradTrack. We expect you guys to do a lot of work, but also have a little fun and get a lot out of this program. So what is GradTrack and why are you guys here? So you are the first cohort of GradTrack ever, just like our mentors are our first GradTrack mentors. So this is really, really exciting. Structure is in place for a strong program, but GradTrack is brand new. So as we're working our way through this, if you students, undergrad students, if you guys have any suggestions or anything you'd like to see, anything more, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. So I've been sending you those emails as well. So it is a year-long program. So we're going to have 8 sessions in total, 4 sessions in the fall and 4 sessions in the spring. And as you guys have gotten to know on the Slack, you guys are from across the country in different fields of engineering. It's very, very exciting. And so we have our 16 GradTrack mentors, and there's 2 mentors per circle. And so there's 8 circles in total. We have a little bit, we have about 40 plus students, undergrad students in our groups. So some expectations for GradTrack. The expectations for GradTrack and for our undergrad participants is for you to be curious, come asking questions. You'll hear me say this a lot. The best mentee is a proactive mentee. And so what I mean about that is I want you guys to get all your questions answered. I want there to be good conversation in circles. You will get out what you put into this program. And it's a really important note to say that you were all selected for this program. As undergraduate scholars for GradTrack, we did turn people away from this program. So, you definitely shined in that pool. And so we encourage you to really show up and engage. We want this to be more than something you could watch on a video or Google. These are going to be highly, highly interactive sessions, and we really want you to lean into those. So attendance is really important, and it's going to be something we're going to try and stress. There are 4 sessions again this fall in total, so we expect you guys to be at those. One important thing about being a mentee and kind of making strides forward in your career goals is to set actionable goals. And again, you'll get out what you put into this program. We are going to encourage you to complete all the assignments that we have, and I'll walk through that really quickly. You'll be getting a lot of emails from me as well, hopefully not too many, about those different assignments. And I would ask you to be respectful of your mentor's time. All of our graduate mentors are full-time grad students, right? They're sharing their experiences with you. They're juggling research, maybe teaching their courses. So be respectful of their time. They're gonna have a lot of really great things to share with you this upcoming year. And again, mentoring is a 2-way street. So undergrad students, you're gonna learn from the grad students. And I expect grad students are also gonna learn from you guys as undergrads. So we want all fresh ideas to be brought to the table, and mentoring, it always goes 2 ways. So what is the goal of GradTrack? We really want you guys to cultivate a community, and we want to prepare you as the next generation of grad students. And a really important aspect of GradTrack is, and the goal is really to focus on students who are underrepresented in engineering. And I want to be really intentional here. We at Purdue Engineering, we really care about diversity, so ethnic, racial, gender diversity in engineering. We really recognize that the most difficult projects are going to require diverse backgrounds, thoughts, ideas, and you. And so we're really excited about, and we're really thankful to have our outstanding graduate student mentors. And we're really thankful to have you guys in this program as you really start to think intentionally about your future and really what that next step is for you. And as you become really that next generation of grad student leaders. So with that, the goal of GradTrack for grad students is to share experiences and mentor our undergrads. And it's important to know our grad students aren't going to have all the answers. That's okay. They are very skilled in the research that they do or the specific graduate area that they're in, they might not know that answer for your statement of purpose. And that is why we are here as a larger network. So I am here to answer any questions that you have, and we'll go around and do very quick introductions as well. And you'll meet Janet, who is also here to answer any questions that you might have. So undergrads, what are our goals and expectations for you? By the end of this fall, we're really going to expect you to have a complete application to something, whether that's summer research or whether that's a graduate school application. We do have a range of students from sophomores to seniors in this program. And so we're really expecting you to come out with that broader network of engineering colleagues who are really interested in that graduate school, those graduate school areas. And so the structure for the monthly sessions, undergrads, you're going to be expected to do some pre-watch. So for today, it was a statement of purpose video. And then we're going to have these quick, short discussions all together as a group on a specific theme. And we're also going to have a professor later on, Raj Gounder, who's going to come in and talk from the professor side about the statement of purpose. So this is all of us together, both mentors and mentees. Then we're going to break off into mentoring circles. You guys can discuss a little bit more in depth in small groups. And then we'll wrap up today with just an introduction to whatever monthly assignment we're going to have. So I'll talk very quickly about that as well. And you might have seen already that we have like kind of an action pack PDF. And so this is going to have on the, this column right here, different assignments that are due, any pre-watch content you have, any meetings, what those themes are. So, and you'll see this column, the mentee actions assignment. So anything in that column, we're going to expect that you are going to do for each session. And this fall, we're going to specifically tackle topics such as your statement of purpose, whether that's for a summer research application or grad school, the graduate application process, how to network and meet faculty, and then kind of some grad school jargon, how to become a grad school insider. And further, if you have any, if you're not sure where to start with questions in that action pack, the PDF that you all should have received earlier today via email, down below there's questions for each section. So if you're not sure where to start, undergrads, look here. These are some questions you can start asking in your circle to get conversation going. So the agenda for today, this presentation, we're going to have a quick welcome as well, and then we're going to have a group screenshot. And then we're going to bump out into circles. And so for our circles, what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate breakout rooms, and I'm going to allow you to move into breakout rooms by yourself. So, so what I'm going to show you here is I'm going to open up the breakout rooms, and then you're going to be able to go click down below on the breakout room button, and you can move yourself into your circle directly. And then once you're in your circles, your mentors will kind of facilitate sharing of the posters, so you can share your screen and you can take about 5 minutes to talk through your About Me poster. And if you happen to wrap up your circle discussion early, doing your About Me posters, I would encourage you to do your team name or go over your team name and make sure you kind of solidified that. I know some of you guys have already done that. And then maybe even start talking about your statement of purpose. Then we're going to welcome Professor Raj Gounder, who's going to give us a faculty perspective, and we'll kind of wrap up. And again, for team names, if you haven't chosen one yet, definitely talk about that in your mentoring circle when we break out. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And let's see, do we have a Donna yet? If we don't have a Donna, then maybe I'll kick it over to Janet for a welcome.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Jackie. Hi, everybody. I am really happy to be here and really happy to see so many of you here tonight. This is a really exciting launch for us. We've been planning this program pretty intently for about 6 months now. So really excited to have the inaugural group kind of kicking it off. So I am Dr. Janet Beagle. I'm the Senior Director of Graduate Programs here at the Purdue University College of Engineering. And so I work very closely with Jackie. And this program is really a culmination of a lot of the years of experience that we've had in mentoring undergraduate students that are preparing for grad school, our work working with the various schools. We have 14 schools of engineering within the College of Engineering. It's a very large college, a lot of diversity in discipline, as well as the number of people. And so we're bringing kind of all of that experience and our passion for helping people that want to continue on to learn how to do that. So we're looking forward to getting to know all of you better and to see you progress through this program. Like Jackie said, the goal here is for this to be a very concrete program. We're hoping this is not going to be talking heads the way I am right now, but that you'll actually be doing stuff here, and that you're going to end this program the first semester here with a concrete application that you're ready to submit someplace. And then in the spring semester, we're going to be talking a lot about the transition to whatever that step is for you, whether that's summer research or whether that's getting ready to go into your graduate program, and just prepare you for all of that. And you've got a great group of mentors here that you're going to be able to work with, glean from them. Don't be afraid to ask questions, reach out. This is the start of a really exciting network that we have here to be able to launch. All right, so I know that we've got a lot to cover tonight, so we're trying to keep this short and keep moving things along. I am looking at the time there. So I don't know if we want to just move ahead with our breakout sessions at this point. I'll punt it back to Jackie.
Yeah, so yeah, like Janet said, we're going to be doing a lot very quickly. So I'm going to suggest that we do a screenshot right now of a lovely group photo. So if you guys feel comfortable turning on your camera, then please feel free to do so. And I'll give everyone, I see cameras still turning on. This is exciting. I'm going to have to do 2 pages because I think mine only does about 50. So I will say a couple cheeses. So 1, 2, 3, cheese. Yeah, lots of good smiles there. Okay, another one. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, second page. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, and then one more. Cheese. Okay, perfect. You guys are awesome. Okay, so I'm going to open up breakout rooms right now. And so what you'll see is when I open up breakout rooms, I am allowing participants to choose a room. And so this is how it's always going to work for every single week. I'm going to always run breakout rooms like this. You'll have until about 8 o'clock to go through, like I said, your About Me posters. And right now the breakout rooms are labeled with your circle number. But after and moving forward, I hope to have them labeled with your team name. So we will work on that for our next meeting in September. So I'm opening up all the breakout rooms. So, and I'm also going to enable screen sharing so you can screen share in your breakout room. So please feel free to move on over into your circle. So again, you should be able to press the breakout room button at the bottom and move yourself over. And if you do need help, just feel free to chat in and I can help with that if for some reason you can't do that. So go and enjoy.
If you're not familiar with this, the pop-up that pops up, if you scroll down, you'll see the different circles there. So you can join from there. Yeah. Everybody is probably a Zoom expert by now.
If some people have, if you're running an older version of Zoom, it might not be as easy.
Yeah, it can sometimes be a little funky.
But I think most of you guys are moving on over. So Andrea, do you need help? What circle are you again? Give me a number.
I actually just don't see the circles in general.
Okay. Yeah.
I also have that problem.
Okay. So Chloe, what circle are you in again?
4.
4. Perfect. Okay. And Andrea,
Oh, cool.
You are
8.
8. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Looks like everyone's over now.
There we go. Welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I didn't want to take up too much time with prepared remarks because I know that Jackie McDermott put together a really helpful video that hopefully all of you watched that goes through some of the overview of the statement of purpose. I wanted to give you a little bit of my perspective as a professor in chemical engineering running the admissions program for a couple of years as to what we look for. And then I wanted to end with enough time at the end for some open discussion and Q&A. I'd like to start by reiterating, I think, the 3 key points that we look for in an SOP, and Jackie hit these 3 points in her presentation. Really, we want to know why you want to go to graduate school and pursue a PhD. We want to know, in your own words, how has your prior experiences in all shapes and forms prepared you for independent research? And we also want to know why you want to come to Purdue specifically, or School X, wherever you're applying to. And those are the 3 things that we look for. In blue, I have, I think, probably the take-home message of what this is. My little speech here today is the admissions committee really reads your SOP carefully. We consider this to be probably the major part of your application that you still have under your control, right? Your transcript is pretty much set. Your past experiences are pretty much set, your research experiences. But what you choose to talk about or not gives us really important insight into who you are. And so we take what you say very carefully and into strong consideration. So it's definitely an important part of your application. General do's and don'ts. I wanted to start by saying 2 things that I commonly get asked questions about in mentees or advisees that I have in my group. 2 things that are important to do in your SOP is, first, to make it a story about yourself. And this can include any hardships or extenuating circumstances you may have had to deal with that you think is really important for us to know. A lot of students have to, for example, juggle a job while they're doing classes and research. They may have other things that are going on in their life. Very important for us to know and get the full picture of who you are as a person. The other is to explain any aspects of your transcript or resume that may seem like a weakness. Commonly, there's a semester or a year with lower grades than you may expect for various reasons, very good ones. Those are things we'll certainly look at when we review the application, but you want to make sure that you have a chance to explain it to the committee, so we don't have to guess, why did you may have a semester that was, not in line with the rest of your semester. So definitely take the opportunity to explain those things. And sometimes, based on where you apply, like Purdue, we have a separate statement called the diversity statement. You may actually talk about these things in a different statement. So make sure you look at each university and what their requirements are. I would say some of the things that are not good practices, or to speak in platitudes. Every year we'll get someone that wrote about how they used to play with Legos as a kid. That's great, but it doesn't really talk about your preparation for grad school. As Jackie mentioned, every word matters. The space requirement is very, very severe, so you want to make the most of your space in your SOP. Don't spend a lot of time talking about classroom performance, at least in our view at chemical engineering. Just getting good grades doesn't necessarily translate into being a good researcher. So you really want to explain the attributes that you think have prepared you to be doing great research. And the other thing is, don't spend a lot of time talking about facts or data that we can find in other parts of your application, such as your transcript. So then what I did is I took the 3 questions and I gave you just a couple of bullet points on do's and don'ts of each. So for the first question, why do you want to go to grad school and pursue a PhD? Do explain why you like to do independent research, or you think you like to do independent research if you haven't had the chance to do so already, over other potential things that you could be doing. A common thing that I see a lot, this is something that happened to me when I was an undergraduate in your shoes. Intern with a company, you learn the position that you want, really requires a PhD, and explain that career motivation. That's something we see all the time. Don'ts. These may seem humorous, but I've seen these over my years. In case I can't find a job, I'm applying to grad school at the same time. May be true, may be honest. You don't need to write that in the letter. We don't need to know about that. Another thing that we see sometimes is some students may not want to commit to 4 or 5 years in grad school, and maybe they're leaning more towards a master's, but maybe the PhD offers more financial support. And so we'll get statement of purposes that basically have a mixed degree objective, applying for both a master's and a PhD at the same time. So when we look at it from the PhD recruiting committee standpoint, it gives us a mixed message about what you think you may want to do in your future career. So what has prepared you for independent research? Do's, be specific. I worked on a research project where I learned XYZ techniques. I studied XYZ hypotheses. I persevered through this unexpected roadblock. Something didn't happen. Tell the story a little bit of what your research project was and how you got into it. The other thing is highlight key attributes of you being a researcher from any of your experiences. And these attributes could be creativity, teamwork, resourcefulness, perseverance, and communication. The pandemic really threw a lot of undergraduate careers into complete haywire. We had so many students apply to our program that had a research experience lined up, and it just, kind of went away into thin air when the pandemic started. And everyone is in the same boat. We admitted in the last year a handful of students that had zero undergrad research experience for a PhD program, because that happened to a lot of students, but they were able to explain how their entirety of their other activities are involved with really set them well for future success as a researcher. Don'ts on this question, don't be generic. Don't just say, I worked on this project with this company in this lab and the goal was to do this. We don't really get to learn about what you did. Another common thing that we see that really doesn't help us is if you sort of list achievements, but without explaining your contributions. A common one is co-authorship in an undergraduate research paper. We understand that co-authorship could be awarded for a variety of reasons. What we really want to know is, what did you do to that research study, and how did you help reach the conclusions in that study, or help as part of the work? So basically tell the story behind the accomplishment. Finally, why Purdue or School X? Really, the most important thing, I think, is to tailor your application, show that you've done your homework, mention research areas, centers, facility, faculty by name. You can even mention other activities and initiatives you're interested in. It could be graduate student organizations on campus, outreach, diversity initiatives, and other activities that you feel are an important part of you as a future graduate student. And some don'ts. Sometimes you get applications where there's nothing specific that you really mention, or maybe it's just generic saying, we're a highly ranked school. To us on the committee, we get the sense that maybe we're not your top choice. You really didn't do the legwork to really apply. Maybe it was a free application, or your advisor told you needed to apply to Purdue or something, so we don't know if you really want to be here. Something that's kind of humorous to us, we don't really discount your application if you do this, but we just find it a little bit humorous, is if you mention that you really want to work with a professor that is emeritus or otherwise is not research active. Really what that means is that they can't really advise you as a PhD student. And so one tip or piece of advice I would give you is, when you want to write this part of your SOP, try to look at the website, or search on Google Scholar or Google and see, is that professor, have they published in the last 5 years? There could be good reasons why they may or may not have, but then you're going to think about your time as a graduate student. Are they going to publish in the 5 years where I'm going to be there, right? So maybe that's a sign that they're not advising students at the moment. You could dig around a little bit and look into that. But again, that's not a deal breaker. We just, it would help us if we, knew exactly who you wanted to work for in terms of your research ideas. We've had applications where they left the name of another school and just a copy and paste here. It looks really bad. Obviously something you don't want to have happen. We've actually admitted students that have done that. It's not a deal breaker. It just obviously not something you want the committee to pay attention to. And simple things, again, also not a deal breaker, but misspelling things like a location or a facility or a faculty member's name. We have a lot of faculty members in our department with very difficult last names, and we like to tease each other about that, but it's just sort of something that you can catch in proofreading. And it sounds silly, but we see it every year. And it's just something simple you can kind of catch on your own. With that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to open it up, for discussion and Q&A. If there's anything you have questions about or want me to elaborate more on, feel free. And you can also email me afterwards if you want, if you come up with a question after the time is up.
Excellent. Thank you, Raj. Any questions? So feel free to either drop them in the chat, or you can use the raise hand feature, or you could unmute yourself and just ask. So Raj is a great resource to kind of get some of your questions answered here for statement of purpose.
Just one really quick question while they're thinking about this, Raj. Can you define emeritus for those that might not be familiar with that term?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So emeritus is a status of professor that essentially means that you've entered retirement and you're not at that point advising students or advising dissertations or teaching classes and things like that. You may be active at the university, but unable to actually advise the next sort of pool of PhD students. So looking into that as you start to decide what faculty are you interested in potentially working for is something to consider as you put together your SOP.
Excellent. It looks like we have a couple questions in the chat. So if you already have professors you've worked with at Purdue, for example, and that continue to work with you after summer research, and that would, that's who you might want to work for as your PI. How would you write that in your statement of purpose? Would you say like, I want to definitely work with Professor X because I've worked with them, or would you say I'm open to like this general area? I know I work well with this professor. How would you recommend doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It comes up every single year. And, I've had students myself that have done an RE with me and applied to Purdue specifically to become a PhD student with me. And so certainly what you want to say, you want to lead off and say, because I had such a, intellectually stimulating, experience on this project, I would like, to continue my PhD studies working with that professor, on these kinds of topics. I think you certainly want to lead off with that. And in addition, however, I would add more detail to your SOP and explain, in addition, there are other professors of the department I would also like to work for who are doing interesting research. And that does two things, at least. One is it shows that there are multiple professors in the department that you could potentially see yourself working for. And there could be any number of reasons that, you may need to work for a different professor once you join the next year. So from the admission standpoint, at least the way chemical engineering works, we like to admit students that we think can work with a variety of professors rather than only one professor. And so just sort of explaining that you're interested in more than one thing, but yes, you definitely have a top choice. That's certainly fine. So certainly, lead with that example and that professor, but mention some other research that you also think is interesting to you.
Yeah, great. And I want to piggyback on that and say, once you decide your research professor that you're working with, you'll also, if you're doing research, you're going to have a thesis committee, right? So you're going to have some connections or have to be building relationships with other faculty, right? And some of those might be tangential to the research that you're doing, but if you can start to identify folks that you're semi-interested in early, that could be really helpful. So yeah, and then we have another question. So this group is made up of students in chemical engineering and outside of chemical engineering, so across all engineering disciplines. And at Purdue, I know that the Master's of Chemical Engineering is more of a non-thesis based degree. So that's why Raj, I think, took a very PhD focused approach for this, this talk. But if Raj, if you could just talk a little bit more about how maybe a thesis master's, and I know that doesn't exist for chemical engineering, but how that statement of purpose would look different from maybe a PhD statement of purpose, and maybe even pros and cons for a non-thesis master's versus a PhD statement of purpose as well.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not probably the expert, I'm not going to be able to give you an expert opinion on that because I've never reviewed a master's thesis application, just because you mentioned Chemi doesn't have one of those. But I think, one of the things we're looking for in, I'll start with the PhD research statement of purpose is we're looking for here's essentially what we want to know. And this is the question is, why do you want to go to school X to pursue degree X, whether X is master's thesis, master's research, or PhD research? We want to know what you think right now is your future career plan. And we want to know how that degree will allow you to be successful at achieving your goals. One of the things that we care a lot about is to make sure that our graduates are able to navigate through the program and successfully find employment however they want. And so, for example, if you want to do a PhD research program, Your career goals may involve becoming a professor in academia, maybe leading a research group of your own in industry, maybe joining a national lab, maybe starting a company that's research-based. When you want to do a master's thesis or non-thesis, essentially what I would expect that you would want to write about is to say, these are the kinds of jobs I would like to do once I leave Purdue. And so here's why I think the master's degree, thesis or non-thesis, is going to set me up to be able to go after that next career step.
Excellent, thanks. Another question about listing professors on your statement of purpose. And if you're applying to, say, chemical engineering, but you also are interested in chemistry faculty, how do you go about listing that? Is that something you want to do? Can you explain a little bit more around that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's certainly something that you should be more than feel more than comfortable doing. We see it all the time. And we also see it as a positive sign that you're sort of exploring the boundaries of interdisciplinary research. And so certainly you can apply to a Chemie PhD program and list professors that work in other departments. There's a very good chance that the professors that you may want to work for in chemistry, for example, already collaborate with some of our faculty. And so those are all positive. So feel free to list faculty that are outside of the department you're applying to. And
sometimes what you'll see is, sometimes you'll see faculty cross-listed, right? So maybe you're interested in aero, but they're more of a materials aspect. Well, sometimes faculty are actually cross-listed between those disciplines. Maybe you're interested in environmental and ecological engineering, but you love buildings too. There's a lot, civil and IEEE cross-list a lot for their faculty. So don't hesitate to look at different faculty and see how, like Raj said, interdisciplinary research. And okay, another question. I want to kind of probably lightning round some of these.
Okay.
How would you distribute your personal experience and research experience in SOP? So I guess how much weight would you give to one or the other?
That's going to be an individual question. I think what you're going to have to do is write about both. And hopefully you have a mentor, whether it's within this program or your home university, that can read your draft of your SOP and maybe give you feedback on where that balance is. But I think mentioning aspects of both is important. But I don't know if I could give you like a balance or a percentage on how much you should spend on each.
Yeah, and you really want your true self to come through for that statement of purpose, right? You want to show that you're experienced and that you can do the work, but also, if there are hardships, you want to make sure you're including those. And that kind of jumps me into Ayana's question of how do I discuss my hardships in my statement of purpose without hurting my chances of admissions? Are there any don'ts when it comes to discussing those challenges?
At least in my, time so far, I've never seen any don't where, the student says something and that disqualifies their application. In every single case, what it's done is provide a lot more context for something that we may have had a question about that we couldn't have been answered. And whether it's a gap semester or a gap year, whether it's lower grades across the board for your whole time, because maybe you're working a job the entire time and you need that to support yourself or support your family. We see a lot of things with medical issues, both on the student and their entire family. They're supporting someone else. And what I would say is there's no, I wouldn't necessarily say there's no don'ts with that. But, you can explain context for, your undergraduate career. You're trying to explain the story of your undergraduate career and being true to yourself. And, in our committee, it's never hurt your chances, right, to explain those hardships.
Yeah, and I guess one question I have is I tend to give the advice, like, you don't want to, like put a paragraph, right? Because your statement of purpose is a lot tucked into this little package, right? So you don't want to take a whole paragraph to talk about this unless it's something that has really truly affected you. So my recommendation is, like, if you can do it in a sentence, right? Even that one sentence is very helpful in terms of context. But do you have any kind of sense about how long and how much space you would, or how much breath you would take in your statement of purpose for that?
Yeah, I would echo exactly what you said. A sentence or two well placed, either in the beginning or towards the end, I think will go a long way. I think if you do spend a whole paragraph, then it could distract from the main message of your SOP. So I would tend to agree, 1 to 2 sentences just mentioning what you think is the most important thing we need to know.
Mhm. Okay, and then the last question, I think it's a little similar, but I'm going to take it as well and maybe add a little bit to it. If a professor is working in a similar research to the one I'm interested in, could I apply and state that detail? And I guess so that is one question. I guess another one is like, if you've done research, but it's not directly related to the lab that you're interested in, how do you sell yourself? And is that okay? How's that pivot? How does that pivot really work?
Both are very okay. So if you want to work with a professor that is very similar to your current interest, or if you want to work for a professor that's very different, what I would say is we see about 50-50. We see about 50% of the applicants, they know essentially exactly what subfield they want to work in, and that was influenced by what they had done in the past. And we've about 50% of our applicants are very open-minded. They're interested generally in a lot of different problems that are being worked on in our department, and that's also okay. So as a recruiting committee, one of our goals is to put together a well-rounded, diverse class in interest being one of them, right? We don't want everyone being interested in the exact same topic. And so we also want a large number of students that are willing to show up in the fall, see what projects are being offered. We hire new faculty all the time. So there are faculty that will offer projects that you haven't even met yet, right? So we want a lot of students that are interested, open-ended, open-minded in various problems. And so if you already know you want to work on a specific area, certainly state that in detail. If you want to keep it open-ended, certainly write about that as well.
Excellent. I do want to be mindful of time, but maybe one more.
Okay.
We're able to work towards new research areas with our advisors. So I guess once you start in a project, how does it go? Like, does it always go in that linear fashion, or like, can you get pulled to one side? How does that work?
Yeah, no, research is anything but predictable, right? And so you certainly are able to work in new areas with your advisors. The exact nature of how that works will be advisor specific, how each faculty member likes to work in their own research. And so just explain your ideas in your SOP. Some of our, maybe this will help answer your question, is some of our applicants will say, I want to work on the existing lines of research with faculty member X. I've read about it and I find it very interesting. Others will say, I know faculty member X works in this general topic, but really what I want to do is study this other thing that I've been getting passionate about. And I want to see, what things we could do at, Purdue to work on that topic. So just explain that in your SOP and it'll work out fine.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Rajgan, or maybe give a virtual round of applause. Yep, we got some. Excellent. And if you'd like to stop sharing, then what we'll do is we'll wrap up. But Raj, are you okay if I share your email with this group in case they have any additional questions?
Please go ahead, and it was great seeing all of you, and welcome to the program, and good luck on writing your SOPs.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, and we will wrap up this session today with a quick rundown about what is going to happen next. So congratulations, you've made it through the very first GradTrack session, 1 of 8. You are that much closer to being an expert in grad school. So I'm going to share really quick what is due in September. Hopefully you guys can see this. Yes, okay. So the next step in this process is before we meet on our next meeting on September 20th, we will have you guys draft up your statement of purpose. So all of the undergrad students, we want you to draft that up and send it to your mentor. So I've sent along earlier today a Word document, a guide for writing your statement of purpose. And so that document was attached in a previous email. Can you guys see the screen okay? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I thought I was getting some funny looks, but that's okay. So that is attached to that email, and I will put that in the Slack channel under the general header as well. And one other thing that's also due by September 13th is for you guys to start looking into faculty that you are interested in working with potentially at Purdue and elsewhere. We definitely encourage you elsewhere, but specifically we want to know 3 faculty that you'd be potentially interested in doing research with at Purdue. And why we want to know is because in our session in November, we're actually going to try to get some of these faculty to come visit and come chat with you. So we want to start to establish these connections for you guys. We want to start networking you up as much as we can. So September 13th, you have 2 things due: statement of purpose and a draft statement of purpose and your 3 faculty you're interested in. And if you're a younger student and you're like, I don't know what my statement of purpose is going to look like because I'm a sophomore, that is okay. You want to think about this as your kind of your statement of purpose of why you're excited about research, potentially why you're excited about a grad degree in your future. You might use this for summer research applications. So it's okay if it's still a little new, especially if you're a younger student, but just start writing because writing is really important. Then September 20th, we will meet, and the theme will be diving a little bit more into the graduate application process. Dr. Janet Beagle will give us a presentation. And then for that session, there'll be some pre-watch videos and YouTube videos on the resume or your CV, what that is, what a CV is, as well as introduction to funding, because that's something we all like. We all like money. And then other quick announcements before we wrap up. We will be doing a monthly newsletter. I'm kind of reiterating some of these deadlines, some of the pre-watch, highlighting some of our mentors, so you can get to know them a little bit better. Other things at Purdue that you might want to keep your eye on. If you're a senior, then I'd highly encourage you to apply to our graduate diversity visitation program that it will be on campus. So I'll send out this PowerPoint after as well so that you have these links. And then we also have this really cool event called the Purdue Engineering Virtual Grad Showcase in the beginning of October. And so if you have a previous research project, there's going to be a poster session. It's another chance to get some presentation onto your resume or CV. So be sure to go on, and if you have a poster, to submit that. And I'm happy to stay on after we close out if you have any specific questions on these other opportunities. Does anyone have any questions on the statement of purpose assignment? Feel free to unmute or raise your hand or throw it into the chat. Are you guys a little nervous to start it? Has anyone started it already? Thumbs up if you have. Cool. Okay, we got some people who've already started. That's excellent. Well, like I said, certainly your grad student mentors are going to be a great resource for you to get some feedback on that from some very educated grad students who should be able to kind of read it and digest it and understand it as well. So, so if you have any questions, yeah, Zachary.
Yeah, I was wondering if it is possible if you could send, I'm not sure through how, but send Professor Gouder's presentation just to go over it. I tried my best to take notes, but.
Yeah, I will get that from him. It might be a few days, but I will post that in the Slack and likely email that out as well. And I would say a lot of that information too is also kind of in that statement of purpose YouTube video that you might have watched before this, but I will also get that from him, and I have it recorded, so hopefully I'll share that out too. Might be, like I said, might be a couple days, but you will get that soon. So September 13th, draft statement of purpose and 3 faculty. And actually, let's very quickly do team names in the chat. So does Circle 1 want to drop in your team name into the chat? Maybe
it's a big reveal. I've been waiting for this moment.
Or unmute yourself and maybe a representative from Circle 1 can see what that is.
We need a drum roll. Going back to my question at the beginning.
Our name is Engineered in the Kitchen because most of all like to cook. So
Nice.
I'll type it in the chat now.
Perfect. Circle 2. Team Shield. Nice. Scholars hoping for interesting and exciting laboratory dispositions. Cool. Team 3.
Team 3, we're the alphas because I think like our engineering disciplines are like ABC.
Cool.
So short for the alphabet.
Nice. Okay, team 4. Or circle 4.
We're still working on ours. We'll get
Okay.
back on that one.
Sounds good. Okay, circle 5. You're still working, maybe? Definitely.
No, we haven't. No one wants to announce it.
I will then. It's the support squad. And
Woo
we're starting
woo.
with
Excellent. Circle 6, I think we're on right now.
Yeah, we're the grad school trail mix.
Nice.
Nice.
Excellent. Circle 7.
We all kind of have an environmental focus on our research, so we're the eco engineers.
Nice. And then circle 8. Still working on it? Okay.
No, so we decided to go on the Astros. I was seeing if anyone else wanted to announce it.
Nice. Well, those are great team names. I will update the Slack so you guys will have that. And I want to do a quick shout out to our associate dean who might have just froze.
Just for a second, I think. Hi, everyone. Yes, if I have a couple minutes to just say say hello to everyone. 2 minutes, 1 minute, I'll make it one. Hi, everyone, I'm Donna Weinstein. I'm the Associate Dean of Graduate Education in the College of Engineering. But no, honestly, I'm really excited to see all of you guys and to welcome you to GradTrack, our first ever GradTrack. So thank you all the undergrads for joining, and thank you to our grad students for mentoring. I think it's going to be a fantastic experience for everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Donna. And thank you all. And I will be in touch via email. And thanks for holding on for an extra 5 minutes today. Have a great rest of your night. And I will hang on if you guys have any questions. So, yeah.
Have a good one, everybody.